I'm a 24-year-old female with an elder sibling, 28 females. We're not particularly close to one another. The main reason we are not so close is because everyone has treated us differently. She is someone's older daughter. She got the better end of the stick, and she was always treated much better than I was growing up. Something seemed strange to me. At first, I assumed it was my imagination playing tricks on me. However, as I grew older, all of these experiences began to stack together, creating a clear picture. It was undeniable. She was the golden child, the one everyone liked. No matter what she did, even if it was completely insane, she was always given the benefit of the doubt. It was as if she had an invisible shield around her that protected her from any blame or consequences. And it wasn't a one-time event. It happened repeatedly, resulting in an unfair trend. She could make mistakes, large or small, and they were always overlooked or excused. It was frustrating and perplexing to see how differently she was treated than the rest of us. While I was not, it was a bad feeling. I tried to overcome it, but the only way I could do so was to leave the house. I would say I succeeded because I've been able to better manage my mental health since moving out. But I'd be lying if I said everything was fine after I moved out when I was 18. My sister did everything she could to destroy my image in the eyes of my parents. She told my parents that I was using drugs and drinking alcohol when I wasn't, and they trusted her over me. They didn't even consider believing me. I was willing to take a drug test to prove my innocence, but they were unconcerned. The main takeaway from all of this is that my relationship with my parents has deteriorated due to my sister. When I finally moved out and the dust settled, I made the conscious decision to cut ties with my parents for at least 2 years. I simply didn't want them in my life at all. And honestly, it felt great to be free of all that drama. I could concentrate on my career, family, boyfriend, and everything else. I was living a pleasant life with no concern of how they might harm me. But then things got worse. When COVID struck, I wasn't speaking with them during the initial months of lockdown. But then I learned that my father had been hospitalized. I thought it was my obligation as a daughter to be there for him. I do not believe in treating others as they treat me. I treat others how I would like to be treated. In spite of everything, I wanted to be there for him. I began communicating with my parents as a result of his hospitalization. Everything has been okay after then. We started fixing things up. My sister was not pleased, but I made it plain that I was determined to stick to my decisions. Furthermore, when my parents approached me about their financial difficulties, I jumped in to help as much as possible. I realize it might sound strange, but in my mind, I felt that by being there in places where my sister wasn't, I could somehow balance the scales and be seen as an equal. This was because I knew my sister was waiting just around the corner to sabotage the whole relationship that I had with them. Helping them out financially actually worked in my favor the way I had intended, because whenever my sister tried to do some messed up stuff, my parents were open about how she did not show up when they needed her. So there's no need for her to speak negatively about me. I'd be lying if I claimed I didn't realize they didn't want to irritate me because they were afraid I'd stop assisting them. This was true. I knew I was going to cease assisting them if they did anything wrong, and given their financial situation, they needed whatever assistance they could get. I could be labeled a horrible guy, but again, I didn't want to be treated like garbage anymore, so I was prepared to do whatever it took. While all of this was going on, my boyfriend and I were still going strong after our 4th anniversary. He proposed to me, I accepted, and it seemed like my life was finally getting better. I had a good symbiotic relationship with my parents. My employment was going well, and my boyfriend and I were engaged to be married. Everything was nicely prepared, and I was quite excited. My sister was the only one who wasn't enthusiastic. She couldn't understand why I felt I should marry so young when she wasn't even married. I will be honest with you. My sister's track record in relationships has been iffy at best. Nothing ever lasted more than a year, so it's not surprising she's not married. Her entire argument that I shouldn't marry since she hasn't seemed ridiculous, to put it mildly. I choose to dismiss her views graciously. The wedding was scheduled for the weekend to ensure that everyone could attend, and I sent out the invites. I sent invites to my sister and dad because, despite everything, I wanted my family to be present. What occurred at the wedding a week ago, last Saturday? My parents did not show up. You could be wondering that something has happened or whatever. Perhaps something significant. No, they did not come there because my sister chose to hold a lunch at her house on the same day, and my parents believed that meeting their elder daughter for lunch is far more essential than being present for their youngest daughter's wedding. Their conduct affected me deeply. It was quite uncomfortable. It felt like a twisted joke because they didn't bother to let me know they weren't coming. I waited for 30 torturous minutes, holding out hope, until my mother exposed my sister's social media posts to me. And that's when I realized they weren't coming. They seemed so delighted sitting next to her, as if she were their only daughter. At that point, I determined that I no longer wanted to aid them. I concluded that it was 7 years too late to chop them off, but now is as good a time as ever. So that's what I did after the wedding. I wrote them a note emphatically expressing that I would never consider them to be my parents again, since they have constantly picked my sister over me, even when I have pulled through wherever she desired, and comma, since they failed to respect me, I will not respect them either. Since then, I've stopped calling them mom and dad, which has upset them. They've given me multiple texts attempting to justify their actions, but I'm insistent. I have absolutely no intention of being kind to them. But somewhere I feel like a gigantic jerk for treating them that way. So I suppose that's why I'm here. I too. Or am I overthinking? Hello, everyone. I sincerely appreciate you all being there for me. Sorry it took so long to notify you. After returning from my honeymoon, I wanted to share my ideas with everyone. I am of the opinion that I am not at fault. However, it is peculiar that you assert that I am not an imbecile. Made my day. I've been avoiding my entire family since then, since they've been hammering me with messages online. My sister and parents believe they have done nothing wrong, and I'm the one who is overreacting. My parents are not pleased that I refuse to pay for their belongings as well. They are fully aware that my sister will not pay for anything since she lacks the necessary funds. But, oh well, I'm not going to be friendly with them anymore. I detest that they made me feel that way. So, I realize it's been about 3 days since I last talked to you. My mother visited me yesterday. I didn't want to talk to her, but she'd been waiting outside my apartment for hours before I arrived. That quote, what my neighbors told me afterward. So, assuming that it would be best, I decided to open myself to her. Turns out that wasn't the best decision. My mother lashed out at me as soon as the door shut. According to her, I was being unfair by classifying them as villains. She stated that just because I am married does not imply I should treat my spouse as my sole family member. I have a family, and I should respect my parents and sister as such. I informed her that all she was saying would apply if she ever treated me like family. However, she never did. I was always treated as if I was useless whenever I needed them. She didn't pull up, so what's the point of her approaching me and now pretending that I mean something to her? I also pointed out to her that while she could have chosen to be there for me, she chose to be with my sister on my wedding day. But my mother was so far ahead of herself that she didn't see anything wrong with what she was doing. Her behavior was terrible. It was sad. She did not believe that anything she did was or could be disrespectful to anyone. Instead, she argued that I had overreacted, which irritated me. I advised her to go and never contact me again until she is willing to admit that she has chosen my sister over me. And things are changing in how my mother communicates with me. She called me insane, and I just told her she should go and never reconnect if that's how she felt. Hello, everyone. It has been a while since I refreshed you. I appreciate all of those that encouraged me throughout that talk. I am going to cut off my parents. Thank you very much. I told you in the last post how my talk with my mother turned out. We have not spoken since then. My father has been reaching out to me, but I have been ignoring him as well. My sister messaged me on social media telling me to grow up and stop overreacting. But lunch was very important to her, and family members sometimes have to make sacrifices for one another. I told her and my father what I told my mother, and I've been emphatic about it throughout. While I want to have a strong connection with my mother and father until they are prepared to put in the effort, I will not be bearing the entire burden on my shoulders. Opie and TJ. As be honest, you are my hero since I am in a similar circumstance as you, with a family that is open about their preference. And comma, honestly, if I could go, I would do exactly what you are doing. AJ. They do not deserve to be named mom and dad if they are unwilling to be your mother and father. Anyone who believes differently can take a lengthy walk from the tiny pier next door. So my girlfriend, who is 22, and I, a 24-year-old man, have been dating for nearly 4 years. When I initially introduced her to my friends, I noted how well she got along with my cousin Sam, who is 24. They had similar senses of humor and shared interests. My fiancé challenging him to a shot competition and getting him drunk on tequila was the highlight of our first year together. It made me extremely glad to watch them become friends, as Sam and I are pretty close as well. Sam began dating Olivia, 24, a female, a year and a half ago, and they became engaged last December. He phoned me last week and asked if I wanted to be the best man at his wedding. Obviously, I replied yes. During our conversation, I stated how delighted my girlfriend was for them and the wedding. He became silent. I inquired if there was something wrong, and he told that Olivia and he had planned a modest wedding for close relatives and friends. They determined not to invite companions until they were married or engaged. I became irritated, wondering how they could make such a choice without considering our connection. Then he informed me that, while he wanted my girlfriend to be there, if they made an exception for us, other people would demand the same, so there was nothing he could do. When I informed my girlfriend what had happened, she was clearly upset. So 2 days ago, I texted Olivia to inquire whether she and Sam had addressed our problem. She stated that she does not want a stranger attending their wedding and does not consider her family, no matter how serious our connection is. I snapped and informed Olivia that the majority of Sam's family, and hence mine, saw my girlfriend as a member of the family rather than as an individual. She didn't care to develop ties with family other than Sam's parents. Then Olivia became outraged and told my cousin everything. He phoned and demanded that I apologize if I wanted to stay the best man. I declined, stating that I would not come until my girlfriend was invited. Sam has not spoken to me since, and my girlfriend believes I should apologize to save my connection with my cousin. I keep away. A wedding invitation isn't a summons. They are free to make their own decisions. However, you are also able to deny the invitation. What kind of earth-shattering influx of plus ones are they anticipating at an already modest wedding? That's the weakest excuse I've ever heard. This might be understandable if you had just met. This may even be appropriate if you were a frequent visitor. However, you've been with your partner for 4 years and are the ideal man. It is particularly heartless not to allow her to come. They're saying it's either her or us, and your girlfriend is definitely the winner, simply by not choosing to fight. They know her. She is not a stranger, yet they choose to treat her like one. And if they lose her, and hence you, it is their decision. The groom seemed to be embarrassed and reluctant, showing that he was aware that his actions were wrong. This decision was most likely motivated by envy on the part of the bride. Perhaps. Keep your emotions open, but don't blame. Sam is the one generating problems, and you worsen them by addressing the bride. Allow this to take its course. You care for Sam, but you can't compete with his determined wife. Opinion on AA. You appear to be quite serious about your relationship, and as you indicated, your family has welcomed your girlfriend as one of them. I believe the main issue is that your girlfriend got along well with your cousin. Olivia does not want her there. You're obviously in AA for protecting your girlfriend. And the no unmarried, unengaged couples rule is foolish, as it diminishes many excellent, valid unions. Yours included. If the bride does not want outsiders at her wedding, avoid inviting anyone who may bring a stranger. But it is their wedding, so they may impose whatever idiotic regulations they choose. You are all within your rights not to go, and you have given appropriate notice. So, no, you are not the a-hole here. Next story. I met my spouse 7 years ago when my kid was 4. We found out we were having a girl barely 2 months after I began seeing my partner, who already has a biological kid. Despite the fact that our relationship is progressing swiftly, it has been amazing. However, a recent problem emerged. My kid is turning 12 shortly, and we promised him a phone for his birthday. He's been asking since he was 9, since all of his buddies have one, and he feels excluded. I felt bad and wanted to cave multiple times, but I didn't since my husband and I had previously agreed that we would purchase him one when he was 12. Now that his birthday is approaching, he is obsessed and enthusiastic about the prospect of receiving a phone. He's completely anticipating it, which I anticipated would happen given how many times we've told him, "When you're 12." So I was looking at phones online the other day that had parental controls and such. Happy jazz. And my spouse decided in this moment that he does not believe my kid is old enough for a phone and should have to wait until he is at least 15. I informed him it was not going to happen, but I listened to his rationale to figure out why. He stated that he did not want my child to have access to any type of social media, and that giving him a phone would force him to mature too quickly and expose him to the media and stupidity. I stressed that this was the bargain we made with my child, and I was not going back on it. Even if I didn't agree with his logic. I did not express my dissatisfaction. I remained steadfast on our vow. We battled for around 30 minutes with him arguing that my son did not need a phone. But in the end, I made it obvious that it was not up for discussion. I informed him my decision. He shot back, "I am getting my kid a cell phone." Then it better be a flip phone because I don't want him on the darn internet. He hasn't talked to me since 1980. Half of my pals agree with me, while the other half thinks I should think about what he's saying and doing. Sorry for pushing this another 3 years after making your son wait. 3 years will break any faith he has in you both. It is better to set restrictions, utilize parental software efficiently, and teach him responsibility than to alienate him, like this. And all of the other kids his age will have phones on top of this. Many modern middle school classes send SMS reminders for homework, examinations, and other classroom information. Your partner needs to get with the times. 1993 was 30 years ago. What is your husband going to tell your child when he turns 15? Wait till you're 18. Furthermore, refusing to give your child any responsibility is a self-fulfilling prophecy that ensures you raise an irresponsible kid. It's far better for the child to be exposed to social media while he's still receptive to your guidance than to wait until he's in the I know better stage, when he'll completely ignore your warnings and get into trouble, and you can limit access to the child's phone, and he'll figure out how to get on social media if he wants to. My 7-year-old, who struggles with reading, discovered a way to access the internet outside of our home. The best strategy is to train kids to be approachable. When children discover anything distressing, they should not freak out about what they have seen.